guys.
Hey,
Hey, Jay. Good to see ya.
Ooh, you're warm. A little hot out
It's
there.
warm great out there.
Hello. Hi, Jacob. Good to see ya.
Good to see you.
Hey, good to meet you.
Yeah.
We always hug, right? When you're in the Griffiths home. It's
Come on in.
Certainly not fine. Hey, how are you? Good to see you.
good to meet you, Ty. We're all doing hugs. We decided.
Okay. Jay.
How are you?
Nice to meet you.
Good to meet you.
This is Wendy. This is Wendy.
Wendy. Hi, Ty. Good to meet you.
Come on in. You guys want to sit over here? Or would you like to sit on the couch?
We can sit on the couch.
Yeah.
We're not gonna try to be too
Yeah, we can
cuddly
sit
in
right
front of
here.
everyone.
Caleb sit on the end and Ty and Jay.
So I took the blue chair.
It's kind of like here.
Sure.
It's like a,
That's right. Comfy chair.
Just want to stay away. I enjoy having conversations about things that matter. So I think what we're going to talk about tonight matters a lot.
Be curious and open to learning.
Show respect and suspend judgment. Look for common ground.
Speak authentically from your personal and heartfelt experience. Be considerate to others who are doing the same. I've had for many years friends who have been gay and gotten to know them well.
in my life, when I have a lot of anger and it just stays there, it kills me.
I have dated women and I'm also strongly LDS. And so both sides have kind of converged in my life and I've had to learn how to listen to both sides.
I don't know why. This question is like kind of hard for me.
I think relationships are so much of what makes life meaningful.
That experience made me fascinated with narrative and the power of these stories to captivate us and seduce us and even destroy us.
It's become really easy to just write people off. Write off their opinions, write off the whole other side of anything.
Yeah, not even just writing off the other side. Sometimes we don't even hear the other side.
We're not really listening. And the other side gets framed as silly or stupid or evil or dumb or hateful, you know. And it's not even a real conversation.
Those who have the money, have the power, they can, to some degree, control the message because they have more money to spend on packaging that message and spreading it out.
And we create weapons out of what the research says because the research says that you're wrong.
Mm-hmm.
And it becomes usually, it just says, it becomes that simple.
Yeah, and I love your point, Ty, about the staying tentative because we want more information. We need more information, right? I almost never want to draw conclusions, I'm like, I'm so open. I'm just going to keep, figuring things out. So I'm hoping, my hope is that we can see some common ground.
I believe we're losing the capacity to disagree in healthy ways. So we kind of have to fight for it. We have to say, no, we can do this. We can do this. One of the most beautiful things I ever see is someone sharing something from their heart and another person genuinely hearing it and receiving it.
So either way, like my love's not valid because I'm dating a woman, or my love's not valid because I stopped dating women and now I'm LDS, right? And so either way, it's like really hard to fit into either camp.
Right.
Because it's almost like not okay. It's not okay to acknowledge that it has to all be the same. But they were united in saying, well,
Yeah, I
there's
thought that
something
was
special.
powerful too.
And I like to be able to acknowledge that kind of thing too. At the same time, I sometimes worry that it's easy to talk about the ideal in a world that isn't ideal.
I would agree with that. And where I feel like as a culture, where we've gone is trying to erase differences. That all situations are ideal. I mean, religious values aside, from a human developmental perspective, I fundamentally believe that a child has a right to the parents who brought that child into this world.
I just really want to understand, how your process of this is what children mean to me, and this is what my friends mean to me, and those types of things I think are the cornerstone of these conversations.
I want to go back to some of Ty's comments. Really have provoked some thoughts in me. In many ways, I see the issue of same-sex marriage as being not that casual view. It's we want to have a committed sexual relationship. We want to have a committed relationship where we are rearing children. So I see common ground there myself.
They had both come in their history from this strong feeling of the value of marriage. So a gay man feeling from a very young age that this is just never going to be a part of my life.
For me, marriage is not an issue of common ground. The love affair we have with this, I feel this intense feeling, and we finish each other's sandwiches, and let's get married tomorrow, and this sort of, that's the narrative that we've so perpetuated. When you tear that away, what's left is even more beautiful. It's not the kind of thing that a lot of people sing songs about, but it's much more beautiful once you've experienced it.
Sang about it in Fiddler on the Roof. Teddy was singing about it.
Nobody watches that movie
On
anymore.
the other hand, but on the other hand,
I love that movie.
I think it's unrealistic to expect. Wendy and I have talked a lot about this lately, which hopefully isn't a sign that our marriage is falling apart. But but we've
Is he gonna say that?
the comment about how it's unrealistic that we actually have overblown what this is going to be. You expect to have one soulmate that is going to be everything to you.
One person.
Maybe the problem is that we don't realize how good we have it.
Any comments over here? Or questions?
My thought, and going back to the question in coexisting peacefully, I don't know. You can or you can't on a macro scale, but on a micro scale, I think we have the responsibility to try.
Am I naive? Because I am very optimistic of coexistence.
There's a big part of me that wants to say, I don't think that we're going to have a macro disagreement 2 generations from now, because, and this is where I know I risk sounding too convicted and self-righteous in my own viewpoint, but I think it's going to end up being just like civil rights.
The hope that you're expressing in the future is actually my greatest fear. That
And I can appreciate
our
why
side
you say
becomes
that.
the crazy aunt
Yeah.
locked up in the attic, and they're
Yeah.
just like, I mean, I've heard people reference us like the modern day KKK.
And something that I've seen good effect in my own life as I've applied it in some very painful, difficult situations, and as opposed to just putting up this wall and pushing back and saying, you guys are just so far off in left field. That's created opportunity for us to still have a relationship, number one. And anybody in a camp that feels strongly about their point of view, that they would walk kind of as Christ taught and be willing, despite the harm they feel like they may have already experienced or injury, but to walk with their enemy and go that direction for a while so that they could understand it.
You can talk about dialogue, and we need a more civil discourse, but until you actually do it in practice, like we've been practicing together, there's something that the practice teaches me that no textbook ever has. Take a deep breath and go, I'm gonna live with this difference. Isn't that like a life-changing moment in a relationship? And without it, a marriage doesn't survive. I think we have to do that in this country. We have to take a deep breath and say, can I live with the idea that this person sees sexuality completely different than I do, or God, or the universe, or the beginning or the end of the world?
Even if we strongly disagree or feel strongly injured, that we'll just walk compassionately and go, I'm sure not perfect. I've sure thought the wrong things and made mistakes. So I'm going to allow that in you also.
It's refreshing to be able to sit and to be able to have conversations with other people who do want to understand.
There's been a cost for us to talk publicly about our views, and so it's interesting. I'm interested in this pain that we're both sharing. I loved hearing that perspective, and that's something that I want to dwell on and think about. Another takeaway for me is Kayla's story. Really, in some ways, I feel like she's been maybe the most vulnerable in this conversation, and I really appreciated that. And I'm going to go away from this thinking about that struggle, having been on both sides of it, feeling like you kind of weren't accepted on either side. That's a really tough place to be in. So that's something I really appreciate. Thank you.
I'm just grateful that it's happening. It just really means a lot to me that it's occurring. I wish in other times of my life people would just sit down and say, what's going on for you and why do you feel this way? And let's talk through this. I think that's what's most important to me, is just that this is happening.
My takeaway is similar to, mostly it's actually that I'm hungry for more of this, because I feel like, oh, we're out of time here already. We haven't talked to very many people like you, I guess is what I'm saying. So we need more of that.
Jay,
Appreciate
final
that very
word.
much. I think for me it just reinforces this evening, and I've just really enjoyed it and appreciated each of you being so willing to share honestly how you feel. The need we have for each other with our differences. We associate with people who may be dramatically different than us, and there is huge value, and we may never solve these things. We may never get it all right, but I think the intents of our hearts to try to get it right and to try to walk with each other and love each other and help each other, understand each other, that's where we need to keep focusing on. And it just once again reinforces that for me to be here and be blessed having you in my home and hearing your stories and your hearts. So thank you very much for being here and doing that.
This was a really good experience. I think it's difficult to be, especially on a topic like homosexuality and LGBT issues. It's difficult to be on the conservative side. It feels vulnerable in these conversations to be to come from a more conservative perspective with the way that the culture has been going, and yet to be in this space and to have these conversations with other people that are just here to learn and to be interested and open and curious. It really, there's a sort of a healing, and I think in terms of our broader cultural perspective, there's a lot of healing that needs to happen with people that can come together really in a mature way from different perspectives, and this was a really good experience.
I think that was a really healing process for me, because it's something that I wish could happen more often, and it was a good prototype for what can happen. And so for me, that was very healing to get together with people who disagree but who want to respect and care about one another.
It was an amazing conversation. It was wonderful to hear the personal story. It was great to realize that we all carry assumptions, that we have to lay those aside before we can really listen.
Yeah, they say that the most important viewpoint you can have is the one that's 180 degrees different than your own. And even though I didn't feel like we were 180 degrees different by any means, it's good to feel like you have talked to someone and get enough of a perspective from someone who's intelligent, well thought out, understands the issues, and has a personal story that we actually didn't get enough to. It just left us hungry for more.
Yeah, I feel like I made new friends, and I want to continue the conversation. Yeah. I feel like there's a lot more to learn from each other.
Well, I just always have fun with these conversations, and just come away feeling more alive, and affection for people who I thought although that's not my kind of friend, I always come away just feeling like I really like them, including you. Yeah.
That's amazing if you like me.
My co-host.
They're enriching. It's just very fortunate to have the time to do this. I think so much of what I have become is because I've had conversations over the years with individuals and things, that people in different settings that have helped me see things differently than I thought I saw them and understood them. So this is just that carried on, and it's worth the time.
So thanks for doing it with me.
Thank you.
All right.